I'm told it's worse in some across the country. I'm told it's worse in some places than others. But whatever it is, are we in Dumsor? And if we're in Dumsor, why don't we have a timetable? If we're not in Dumsor, what is it that explains why, Monday you have power, Tuesday you don't, Wednesday you have power, Thursday you don't? The ECG and the government on one side have said it time and again, have said it emphatically that we don't have Dumsor. That's the reason why we don't have a timetable. But then you have institutions like the Institute of Economic Studies, we have ASAP and co, who have come out to say, tell Ghanaians the truth. You have a problem. Tell the Ghanaians the truth and they will understand. Stop playing politics. So we're trying to understand what exactly is happening, for which reason. Today, as we're speaking, some businesses are actually running on plants and in some cases generators. In some homes, people haven't had light for almost 12 hours. In fact, some say the lights went off this morning and they're not sure when it's going to come. Some went off last night and so on and so forth. So it's widespread complaint about the intermittent power supply. So this afternoon, we have invited the Institute of Economic Studies, it's the Chief Executive Officer, the Executive Secretary, who will be talking to us, and Amwesi, the 7th, who will be talking to us this afternoon. And also, we have the man, Mr. Kofi Kapito. Mr. Kofi Kapito is the Executive Director of the Consumer Protection Agency, and also Alhaji Jabaru Kabiru. He works with the Public Utility Regulatory Commission in charge of consumer protection and operations. Will also be joining us at some point. Thankfully, I guess he's even joined us. And also we'll be talking to the ranking member on energy, mines and energy. I'm talking about the Honorable John Abdullahi Jinapor. He's out of town. He'll be joining us via Zoom at some point to tell us what he also knows. Yesterday, he held a news conference. But before we get into all of that, let's watch some Ghanaians who've been complaining about Dumsor.
Amidst calls for a load shedding timetable from citizens, the Electricity Company of Ghana has cautioned citizens to brace themselves for more outages. According to the Power Distribution Company, the outages have become necessary due to the increased demand on some 630 transformers nationwide. This has led to blown fuses and broken conductors in its transformers. However, business owners in Teshi are already reeling under the effects of the power outages.
Light no mutu me doom baby, no maso baby, mutu me doom baby, no maso baby. Sometimes I have me flage ba kubi kura or kula no. As the nurse is into mu doom light and the sun so no. I'm fine no. I aba form ka krenti. And then 3 days na mema prepare be baba shema me.
For Bernard, his new poultry business has suffered major setbacks due to the unstable power supply.
They have to dump about 6-day-old chickens. Some are incubator. Because of the light off, I have to go and throw off. Even yesterday, 3 days today, I have to carry an incubator from this house to another place just to give it to a brother to put it on fire because they have started beeping up for hatchery. The light is disturbing us a lot. I must be honest and sincere with you.
Last week, we even slept in it about 3 nights, 3 days. And with that, I couldn't even work. So I pleaded with the engineer of the Ghana Electricity Company just to come and work on the transformer for us. So they brought a new transformer and they changed it. Ever since that, we are just assessing it to see how it's going to help us. So they changed it about 2 days ago.
Right. So there you have it. Francis has another story compared to what we heard from Konko. Konko said his light has been unstable for the past 3 weeks. Francis here says his light has been stable for the past 2 days since the transformer has been changed. And so here are some entrepreneurs or business people who heavily depend on electricity to function here at Teshi. My name is Ethel Poplampo, reporting.
Well, so you heard that. And then just yesterday, the ranking member on energy, that's the Honorable John Abdullahi Jinapor, held a news conference in Parliament, and that was covered by Joy News and one other media house. Let's watch what John Abdullahi Jinapor had to say about what he knows about why we have Dumsor.
It's been almost a year now, and we've been monitoring it. And I can confidently, but sadly, confirm to you that the current load shedding we are experiencing is not technical, it is financial. It's due to mismanagement, it's due to a gross abuse of the cash waterfall mechanism and misapplication of the funds. Ladies and gentlemen, if you go to page 1 of the report, and I'll show to you, a total amount of 820 million was received. 820 million. Indeed, government is supposed to top up an amount of 200 million. And you can see it here. Ministry of Finance top up. The Ministry of Finance is expected to release an amount of 200 million to add to the 800 million, so that you will have about 1 billion cedis for disbursement. Of this disbursement, what they call category A, which is the IPPs, they are supposed to receive 500 million. Then the other 300 million, as you can see in the document, is shared amongst the rest. Then the Ministry of Finance pays the 200. But when you read this report, and that is where our problem comes from, ECG collects 820 million. Instead of paying 500 million to the power sector players, ECG decides that, and this is here, page 2, paragraph 2.3, actual disbursement of revenue to sector players. The total actual revenue reported by ECG to level A beneficiaries stood at 120 million. Instead of 500 million, they paid 120 million to the IPPs. That is one problem. 2, instead of paying the 300 million to Gridco, VRA, and the other power sector players, they paid 162 million. So what it means is that over 500 million cedis cannot be accounted for. Over 500 million cedis has been used outside the cash waterfall mechanism. We do not know where that money went to.
Well, that's the Honorable John Abdullahi Jinapo, who's a ranking member on energy, giving us his own diagnosis and his own understanding and appreciation of why we have this erratic power supply. Well, that assertion that he made, the claims that he made, has actually been disputed by the managing director of ECG. He's been on some of the media platforms to basically say it is not true. All right, so we're going to get to the bottom of that. So that's John Abdullahi Jinapo's word as against that of the MD and government spokespersons as well. Now, let me say that Nana Moisi is the executive director of the Institute of Energy Security. He's joined us via Zoom. We'll pick a stop. But before we do that, let's start with the PURC's Director of Operations and Consumer Services. I want to believe it's Consumer Services. That's Alhaji Jabaru, Kabiru Jabaru, who's joined us via Zoom as well. Alhaji, Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us on Good Afternoon Ghana.
Good afternoon, and alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. The name is Abukari Jabaru.
Abukari Jabaru. Thanks very much for that. So, wonderful. Before I start with you, let me also say that Mr. Kofi Kapito is here. He speaks for us, the ordinary consumers, when it comes to provision of services, public services. He's here. I mean, there's Consumer Protection Agency. He's the boss there. Mr. Kofi Kapito, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us on Good Afternoon Ghana. Thank you. Your microphone was actually off. If you can put it back on, yes.
I said a good afternoon to you, your viewers, and Jabaru, and everybody who's watching.
All right. So I'll start with you, Alhaji Jabaru, before I go to Nanamwese. Now, what's been the PURC's own assessment and appreciation of what's happening? I mean, you're supposed to be protecting both our interest and the interest of the utility service providers. So let's talk about us first. What do you know about why we keep experiencing these power outages. It's very erratic and very intermittent. Some go for 12 hours, some 7 hours, some 6 hours. As we speak this afternoon, some people are running their generators. What's the PURC's own appreciation of what's happening?
Thank you very much. As a commission, mostly when we have some of these challenges, what we do is to conduct some investigations on what is actually happening on the ground so that we come out with a report. As we sit here, we know there have been outages across the country. The very intense one has been people within the Ashanti region, that's the Middle Belt. And that has happened for some time now, and we've been monitoring. So we picked some data which we are analyzing from Greco, and mostly Greco will always try to at least shed load to be able to keep the country grid on, so that we will not have the entire country going down. So as a commission, where I sit, I on daily basis being monitored to find out, to see the challenges that customers or users of electricity face. And it's not only users of electricity, even it has affected the supply of water in across the country. As we speak now today, Eastern region has water supply challenges because of the erratic power supply, and Ashanti region. But as a regulator, mostly we will try to be able to investigate the matters, take the data, so that at the end of the day, whatever report that we are having, we invite the utilities to be able to come to respond to them. And that is what we are doing as a commission. So currently, extensive data collection has been done from Greco. We're trying to do analysis so that we'll be able to come out clear with what the situation and who is responsible, and what regulatory measures we will take against an individual. That is where we are. But we have observed consistently that there've always been some instructions from the system operator that some load has to go off. And sometimes they give reasons as to why they have to go off. So that is the situation we find ourselves currently. And we have to be very transparent. And that is why, as a commission, we are making sure that we chain out all the necessary information that the public will need to be able to at least understand what is happening on the ground. So all the indications or the instructions that Greco normally send out, if it has to do with Volta region today, for instance, the entire largely Volta region and OT regions are off from 8 to 6 p.m. because there were instructions given by ECG that Greco is embarking on some maintenance. So these communications have been at least communicated to the various people within, and these are planned ones. But what is not planned, that is where we are investigating. But planned ones, obviously, we have to go back and check from our schedules whether these were things that they had even communicated to the regulator, because such maintenance works are supposed to be communicated to the regulator ahead of time, so that at least alternative communication could be put and people will plan their lives.
I see. That's interesting. You say that you've already collected some data from Gridco. Can you, for instance, give us your preliminary thoughts on whether this problem is a generation problem, whether it's a distribution problem, or it's a transmission problem? I mean, on the surface of it, what does it look like?
You see, regulation is is one thing that you have to be very careful with data. The data asymmetry is very one thing you have to be very careful with. If you don't have the full data and you make preliminary comments, you might be misled. So sometimes we start from the system operator point, which we are taking the data. We've also requested data from ECG because we've heard several comments on various media platforms about overloaded transformers. So we need to take all the information as a whole, then we analyze it so that we'll be able to, because if it is generally from the system operator's end, it affects a very larger portion. But in between, there could be some localized problems that individual communities and customers will be facing and all those things. So regulatory work, as a regulator, if you are not conclusive with your analysis, you don't make assumptions out of that, because as a regulator, you should be the last person to speak to issues. So when people make proposals or assumptions, when you are speaking on authority, and that is where you have to be very careful. So for now, we've taken data from Greco. We've also requested data from ECG on some of the assumptions or pronouncements that have been made at various platforms, and we are waiting to get some of these data so that we can analyze it and know, these are some of the where the problem is. It could be that even if maybe we have enough generation, or maybe the system might not be able to hold it. So let's, as a regulator, I don't want to make assumptions, and the commission will always
I can understand. Well,
on those.
I can understand that, Alaji, but we've been experiencing these erratic power supply for a while now. I mean, it's been so since the latter part of last year, the beginning of this year. I'm just wondering why the PURC has only decided now to find out from the players within the power sector value chain what is happening, and you're not collecting data. Why now?
We always do collect data on monthly, weekly basis. But like I said, we are looking at a situation where there is some amount of outages that is intense within the system. What we originally knew was that it was the middle belt, that was Ashanti region, that had some system challenges, but now it's wide across the country. So maybe that one you could say that you were attributing it to maybe some challenges that might affect the stability of the system and all those things. So these are some of the issues that, so now that you have it in a very broad, you have to broaden your investigations,
okay,
and get the data so that you'll be able to at least give conclusive, recommendations, or maybe come up with a regulatory order so that whoever is found to be not playing his part effectively, then a sanction or otherwise is placed on their person's doorstep.
Now, I know that you have to leave us because you have a meeting to attend to, so I'm not going to keep you on the line. But just my final question to you: how soon are you going to be done with your report, and when are you going to publish it? And how do you intend to deal with? I'm sure that your office has been inundated with a number of calls from consumers complaining about their gadgets either being destroyed, people's discomfort, and so on and so forth. So 2 questions: 1, when is the report going to be ready? 2, what do you intend to do with the report? Are you going to, for instance, punish the utility service providers for putting us through what they're putting through? How do you intend to compensate us? That, for me, is my final, or my penultimate or final question to you, sorry, before you take leave of us, Alaji.
Yeah, I think the latter, in terms of whoever is culpable, the commission will take decisions on that. And people who have their gadgets that have been destroyed out of these outages, that those cases are handled individually. And I think some people have had maybe their decisions already. But with regards to when we will be conclusive on the matter, we have had extensive data from at least the system operator, the distributor. We are yet to get the required data from them. So once we get the data, we are able and the commission can assure you that for some time now, we've been very, very transparent with some of these issues. If not for us publishing maybe the cash waterfall reports, maybe the journalists or the media wouldn't have seen it to talk of, even start discussing it. Then we have the PwC audit report too on our website. So people who are interested can go through. The motto of the commission is STEP. We are trying to be very transparent, self-improvement, transparency, enforcement, and proactive. So we want to be transparent as a regulator. I think the key rider for a regulator is transparency, so that people will be able to see what you are doing. You have your limit in terms of what you can do, because these are managers who have been appointed by maybe the shareholders of the companies, and you are regulating them. So you have limitations as to what you can do. But yours is to be transparent, so that all the players will know the effort you have put in as a regulator to ensure that there is that reliable supply of electricity. But we are monitoring and discussing with the various stakeholders. We are not trying to be on the media on some of these things. But we do a lot of engagement and discussions with the various stakeholders. We have invited the various players at various intervals to have discussions on how to come out with a solution to the matter.
All right. Thank you very much, Alhaji, for your time. You have to attend to a meeting, and so would allow you to leave us or to take leave of us. We're grateful, sir. And that's Alhaji Kabiru, actually Abubakar, I think so, Abubakar or something. Anyway, he's actually in charge of operations and consumer protection at PURC. Now, let me, is Nanamwisi on? Nanamwisi, I want to believe you're on now. Have you joined us via Zoom? Nanamwisi, if you're on, I want to proceed with you. If you're not on yet, then I'll come to Mr. Kofi Kapito. Mr. Kofi Kapito, what's been your own assessment of this? I mean, both at the personal level, in terms of your personal experiences, and also as an agency, consumer protection agency, you've been at the forefront of fighting for the interest of consumers. You always want to make sure that we get the best. Personally, how are you dealing with this erratic power supply, and what's your agency doing about it?
Just like any Ghanaian, personally, I'm going through the same outage. And it's not very comfortable, especially this time of the year.
Yeah.
Temperatures, nobody knows what is wrong with the climate. Normally, the rains should start by now for us to have a relief, but we still don't have any relief. And then to get home or go to the office and then there's no power, I don't think it's the best. But, Moro, it is funny. There was this song by Ampong. You know that gospel musician?
Yeah. Right.
He says, "Unya akokwa, unya silver so unya akokofunu."
Okay.
Look, some time ago we were crying about power outages, and it was because there was no enough generation.
Right.
Then we managed to get generation, and now we are crying. We are crying for power outages because there's no money. So, I mean, how does the country balance it? One point, there was generation problem, and now there's financial problem.
Right.
So, to the average consumer, I don't know whether you've watched that movie, Gone with the Wind, where, Skylar O'Hara told, what's his name, that, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. At this point, especially prepaid consumers of electricity, I don't think they are being treated fairly because you're out of money, but you don't get what you've paid for.
True.
And as a consumer, I don't think it sits right with any consumer in this part of the world. And to me, the PURC, who is a regulator, should be doing more than what they are doing. I'm not saying they are not doing anything, but they should be doing more. But these little kids on the playground, pointing fingers and pinching one another, I think it will not help us. We need to find a solution.
The problem.
And the solution being is we have a challenge, period. Look, ECG, under the stewardship of Dubik Mahama.
Samuel.
Yes, Samuel. I would tell you that he's done a wonderful job.
Right.
In terms of even revenue collection.
Right.
In terms of trying to block some of the loopholes.
Right.
He's done
very,
very well.
Right.
Yes, there are still challenges. Challenges, probably not his fault. Challenges that were there before him, that he's trying to solve it. And to me, by my dealings with him, I think he's doing extremely well for him to get ECG to what ECG needs to be.
Right.
But the politician and the government also has a role to play.
Right.
Look, here we are. My own brother Abu Jinapo, John Jinapo, who did this press thing.
Right.
I admire him. I like him. But I'm tired of this NDC MPP. Somebody says he's Dumsor. Somebody says he's Dumsor. I mean, whatever it is, we don't have electricity.
Absolutely.
Period. So somebody should be able to tell us exactly what is going on.
Yeah.
I have some insight. Like I said, look, ECG, sometimes we give it a bad name. ECG is very, very, very much not treated fairly by people who know better that they don't speak. Because ECG is in the business of selling electricity.
So what is sold to them, what is given to them is what they sell.
What is given to them is what they sell. I mean, ECG will not get the electricity and will not sell it.
Yeah, because they have to sell to
They
make
have
money.
to sell to make money.
Yeah.
So when people come across and make it look like maybe they are intentionally hoarding electricity or they are not doing what they are supposed to do to sell electricity, I think I have a little bit, discomfort about it.
I like that. I guess I like that. And I like this. I like the point you just ended, which is you're very uncomfortable with what appears to be barking the wrong tree. So I'll come to you on that. But let me say, Nana Moses joined us now. And Nana Moses has actually been on. I didn't know. Nana Moses, I'm so sorry. But good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Moro.
Yes,
and good afternoon to your viewers.
Yes, and I'm so grateful that you've been able to make time to join us this afternoon because you are the technocrats in the soul space. You guys are not politicians. You say it as it is, and so we'll take that hook, line, and sinker. What's your own appreciation? What's your own knowledge about this erratic power supply that we keep experiencing? Is it a generation problem? Is it a distribution problem? Is it a transmission problem? Is it a cash problem? What is it?
Well, thanks once again, Moro. I think that Kofi has shed light on a few of these concerns. One, you are asking, what is the problem? Kofi was right, and it's clear in his mind that the situation we have today is a financial constraint. We have enough of an installed capacity. We don't have problem at all with how much we can expect from power producers, all things being equal. An installed capacity of about 5,200 megawatts, dependable capacity of roughly 4,750. Then we have a peak demand of roughly 3,650 megawatts. Between that dependable capacity and our system peak demand, there is a reserve margin of more than 1,200. That is in excess of the required 18% reserve margin. And so you ask, what is the issue? If you have enough of an installed capacity, what is the issue?
Mm-hmm.
The issues are these. After the installed capacity being right, you also need to ensure that you have a robust transmission network. You have a very good and strong distribution network to assure you of that reliable and constant power supply. Then you must also concern yourself with who supplies the fuel or the fuel that is supplied to the generators. And here was something. Moro, the fuel we're talking about is not just natural gas. We can also look at the hydro domain where we talk of water. The water level, when it drops, it means that you are losing fuel for the plant to work full throttle. For Akosombo to work all the 6 turbines, for Pond to ignite or probably activate its full turbines, and we do the same. We get into a period, we pray that the water should be favorable for us or the rain. But consistently, Akosombo is dropping. Bui levels are dropping. It means that we are going to have fuel supply challenge from the hydro domain. But then we also have the natural gas and the liquids for the thermal power plants. We also need to work on that so that we can be assured that the plant will work. Then the major equation is this. After you have all the adequacy in installed capacity, you must have enough of revenue to cover all the costs that is incurred within the value chain, right from the fuel supplier, natural gas, and to the transmitter, WAPCO, to the generators, be it VRA or the government entities and the IPPs, then to the transmitter, GridCo, then the distributors, ECG and NetCo. The distributors sit at the tail end of the value chain. They collect the cash. This cash collection should be enough such that and must be effective so as to generate enough of that to cover all the costs incurred. Then we talk about the cash waterfall system. Yes, it goes into that vault. Then funnels down to all the other players to ensure that they have, appropriate, no, they have an equal proportion of this money relative to their costs incurred.
Mm-hmm.
If the revenue is in shortfall, then there's a challenge here. You can't cover their costs.
True.
And they can assure you that they can maintain their system and then give you that power that you require, whether through the transmission or the generation or distribution. Today, ECG as a major distributor have that problem. They are not collecting enough to cover the costs here. And so once in a while, you will have complaints from the transmitter of the natural gas compelled to shut its valve so that it gets its money, pushing government for money. When the valve is shut, irrespective of the amount of installed capacity that you have, the plants don't have fuel to work.
I see.
If the supplier of the fuel is not paid and chooses not to give you the supply of the natural gas in adequate volume, the plants will have to shut down because they are starved. It's just like your car. If you don't have fuel, you cannot run it. These are some of the issues that we have. Then, of course, if the money is not going to the power producers, they cannot maintain their machines. So once in a while, the machines may have to shut down by itself or may have to trip until they do corrective maintenance. And so the power plants are not doing plant maintenance well because of financial constraints. Now, even the transmitter doesn't have enough of money to maintain the system to assure you of, the transmission of the power, including the ECG. And so all that we are talking about here is if there's money, fuel supply will be enough for the power plant to work. If there's money, the generators can maintain their system, and I can assure you that at any point in time, they can dispatch.
Right.
If there's money, the transmitter and the distributor can also work effectively. So it's a financial constraint here. If the illiquidity is solved, we'll be out of this wood.
Interesting. Now, please hang in there. Let me come to Honorable John Abdullahi Jinapo, who's a ranking member on energy. He actually held a news conference yesterday. He spoke to, I think, a couple of new media houses and addressed the press, basically, and actually pointed us to the fact that the ECG management has violated the president's directive that ECG goes strictly according to the cash water for mechanism model. And that is why we're where we are today. But so you try and break it down for us to understand what he means. John, I'm understanding that you've joined us now. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us, Honorable. Honorable, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Can you hear me, John Jinapo?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, I'm just saying that yesterday you had a news.
Am I clear?
Yes, you're very clear. Can you hear me too?
Yeah, I can hear you very clear.
Wonderful. Now, you held a news conference yesterday and you indicated that you have come to one firm conclusion that this whole matter has to do with cash or it's a liquidity problem. And you actually referenced the PURC's own validated report for January 2024, where it talks about, the cash inflows and who was supposed to be paid what and who has not been paid what and so on. And more importantly, what appears to be a violation of the cash water flow mechanism principle or model. Help us understand what you're trying to communicate to Ghanaians yesterday when you held that news conference.
More, I've shared the document with you. It's not my document. It's a document from
I've
the
seen
PURC.
it. I do have it here, yes.
And if you can open it, I'll just walk you through what the report says. I was just quoting copiously from the report. I didn't add anything to the report. I didn't subtract anything. If you look at page 1, point number 2.1, it tells you under cash water for mechanism, 820 million was collected. You can see it there.
Yep.
And then the allocation is 512,307. Then if you go to the next page, out of the 512 that ECG should have paid, ECG paid only 120. If you go to the third page, that's page 3. Out of the 307 that ECG should have paid, they paid 162, meaning that over 500 million cannot be accounted for. And if you look at 3.0 conclusion, the first paragraph, it says that ECG has not complied with the guidelines of the new cash waterfall mechanism as directed by the president. So I'm not saying anything. I mean, I haven't said anything. I've just read copiously without editing, without even paraphrasing. I'm just reading copiously from what the document says. Over 500 million cannot be accounted for. Over 200 million that the Ministry of Finance is supposed to pay on behalf of ministries, departments, agencies, and shortfalls. Since August, they have not paid that money. And so there's a huge debt and there's a huge deficit. Unless they tell me that PURC is being dishonest. And this document is on the website of PURC today as we speak. The PURC boss has spoken to it and has confirmed that indeed they authored this document. So clearly it's a regulator that is saying that ECG is mismanaging the funds, abusing the cash waterfall mechanism, misapplying the funds, and creating serious financial shortfalls. So it's not an NDC NPP affair. It's rather a PURC ECG affair.
Right.
And I think that they ought to tackle it from that angle.
But John, when the ECG boss explains and tells you that yes, indeed, there's some shortfall, but that shortfall can be explained, it is actually one of the reasons why he has a problem with the PURC for not writing to them, for them to explain that two major issues here. One, he talks about forex losses. Sounds a bit technical, but I'm sure you'd appreciate it much better. But he says forex losses actually accounts for a portion of this money you're talking about, which is, you say, cannot be accounted for. Of course, that's contained in the report. And also talks about the fact that at some point, they were desperately in need of money to buy fuel in order to pass up some of the power plants. Otherwise, the whole country was probably going to go, go dark. What do you make of the two major reasons that Samuel Mahama of ECG, the ECG boss, has given as accounting for why there's that shortfall, and it's not like somebody has chopped some money or anything of a sort?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I mean, I'm saying that Samuel Mahama, the MD...
So you said ECG says what?
He talks about forex losses, which is actually supposed to be dealt with by the finance ministry in order for the figures to be reconciled. So because of the forex losses, the finance ministry is supposed to reimburse them so that they can pay whoever they need to pay. And then secondly, there are also issues of, there was a point in time where there was some desperation. They needed to buy fuel in order to power some of the plants. And finance ministry had actually promised to pay them that money. And you just mentioned it, 200 million Ghana cedis. So there's an explanation why that 500 cedis can't be accounted for.
No, that's not true. That's not true. We are talking of 820 million collected and disbursed in a way that cannot be validated by PURC. That's a different one.
Okay.
The 200 million ought to top up the 820 million.
True.
And so even if the Ministry of Finance were to pay the 200 million, it will still not be enough.
Right.
Because we are talking of a deficit of about 600 million. So this idea that the Ministry of Finance ought to be held liable is not true. It's not true. I mean, if you read the report carefully, that is not the issue. Secondly, if they want to make any adjustment, if they want to buy fuel, they want to alter the payments, they should go to the cash waterfall mechanism standing committee and make a justification. ECG cannot, on their own, outside of the cash waterfall mechanism, decide that they unilaterally. That is not the essence of the cash waterfall mechanism. So,
yeah, but he says,
either way you look at it.
But John, he says, sorry about that, but he says he called the finance minister and told him this is the problem we have. We need 200 million cedis urgently to buy fuel. And the finance minister said, well, we can advance you that money. So even if it means you need to borrow it, we'll reimburse it. And so it isn't a decision you took without letting the finance
But the
ministry
shortfall
know.
is not 200 million. The shortfall is 500 and something million.
Okay, so then there's still
So
more
where
to
is
be
over
accounted
300
for.
million?
I get it.
Where is the over 300 million?
Yeah.
Let's even assume that what he's saying is true, 200 million.
Okay.
Where is the over 300 million? I mean, look, people should not think that just because we are politicians, I mean, we are not also Ghanaians. We are Ghanaians, and we understand the sector. You've collected 820 million. You claim that you advanced some 200 million. So where is the 300 and something million? And why did you not include that in the report? That means that the system is not working. So if there's a problem with PURC, fine. If there's a problem with ECG, but clearly there's a problem because the ECG MD is disputing the report and saying the report is not accurate. So which of them do we trust? Which of them do we believe? These are two government-owned agencies or businesses. So there's a major problem there. Then two about the current load shedding. And that for me is the most important thing. I heard the PURC guy say they want to do some validation. Please, 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 please. I mean, we are not kids. We have a SCADA system. The SCADA system ensures that there's real-time data. So this issue of they want to go and validate is neither here nor there. And the SCADA system is a supervisory control and data acquisition system. The word explains themselves, supervisory. So the SCADA system supervises everything, and then it controls the system and gives you real data. So yesterday, we know the amount of power that was generated. You don't need any validation. GridCo will just tell you that 3,000 megawatts was generated. We know the amount of power that was demanded. It was 3,600. There's a deficit of about 500 megawatts. Is that a fact or not? That's a fact.
True.
You don't need to go anywhere to do any validation because yesterday we know the power that was generated and we know the peak demand for yesterday is real time. That is why they had to share 500. If they did not have that data, they wouldn't share 500 megawatts. So what are they talking about? Yes, ECG may have some maintenance issues. That one, we can deal with it. But is there a generation deficit or not? More of that is the question. And if there's a generation deficit, what is causing the generation deficit?
What do you know?
This is not a political issue.
What do you know? What's causing the generation deficit?
It has nothing to do with politics.
No, but what do you know about what causing the generation deficit?
How many megawatts were you able to generate yesterday? What was the peak demand yesterday? Was the amount generated able to satisfy the demand? No. What was the gap? 500. So we shared load. And that's why he kept talking about the bulk supply point. The bulk supply point is GridCo. And GridCo monitors the system and sees that demand is outstripping supply. So we need to put some of the bulk supplies off. Other than that, there will be a system collapse or what you call a system disturbance. This is straightforward. Must we argue over this one too?
Right. Right.
I mean, must we argue that there's a deficit in generation? If there's a deficit in generation, there's a deficit. So then we then ask ourselves, what is causing the deficit in generation? Is it because some plants are down? Is it because we don't have enough money to buy fuel? Or there are some challenges? Then we can address that. But when the ECG MD tries to dribble us and say that he's doing maintenance, that has nothing to do with generation. He decided to cause that problem for himself. Nobody has compelled him to step up to the media and give that excuse, which turns out to be untrue. Because I have the report here for yesterday, and we get the reports daily. I can read it for you. Moro, just 1 second, even as I engage you. Look, yesterday was what? 12th of March 2024. Previous peak day load was 3,229. That is what was generated.
Yes.
The demand was 3,618. So the demand is more than what you generated. And then yesterday itself, the demand, just hold on a moment. Let me read it for you. Yesterday, peak period, the quantum generated was 3,112 megawatts. 3012. That is the total that all the generation plants put together were able to generate. but the peak demand was 3,663 megawatts. It led to a shortfall of 600 megawatts. What has that got to do with ECG? I mean, look, this thing that ECG and people are trying to is NDC, NPP political. It's not. There's nothing political.
Okay.
It's technical. Were you able to generate enough? No. Was there a deficit? Yes.
Right.
Did that result in load shedding? Yes.
Okay.
That's
John,
a fact.
Good. John, let's take, it's just a minute break. Let's take that break. Please hang on a minute. I'll get you to give my concluding remarks whilst Mr. Kofi Kapito also comes in with an Amwesi so that we can wrap it all up. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back. This is Good Afternoon, Ghana. All right, welcome back. This is Good Afternoon, Ghana. We're trying to get to the bottom of why we're experiencing the intermittent power supply. And I have the Honorable John Abdullah Jinapo, is a member of Parliament for the Yape Kuseu and also ranking member on energy. And also Nana Mwesi, the seventh, who is also the executive director of Institute of Energy Security. Kofi Kapito speaks for consumers. He's with the Consumer Protection Agency. And also, I had earlier Abukari, you call it? Jabari, yes, of the PURC. Now, let me, John, let me get your final concluding remarks so that you can take leave of us, and then Anamwisi will come in and Kofi Kapito will end it off for us. So, John, what do you think is the way forward? I mean, I've heard you, for instance, say that you intend to get Parliament to summon the players, within the industry to come and tell us exactly what's happening, so that we're all on the same page. Are you really determined to do that?
Yes. So I'm prompting the chairman. He's the chairman who can call for that meeting. As ranking member, I don't have the power, but I'll do that. You have a Ministry of Energy. Don't you think that they owe us a duty to tell us what's happening?
Well, he says this is Dumsor. That's the only thing I've heard from Napo. Says this is not Dumsor. He says this is Dumsor.
When did he say that?
Well, he said it at an energy forum. It was just a couple of days ago. He said this is Dumsor.
No, that is an old video.
Oh, it's an old video.
It's an old video.
Okay, so there's nothing current from the Energy Ministry.
The current one hasn't spoken.
Yeah.
Check well. It's an old video.
Right.
There was Dumsor at that time, and he said they were putting some plans off, and that they were engaging in what he called Dumsor or whatever.
Okay.
But he hasn't spoken.
Right.
The Minister of Information hasn't spoken. Gridco, which is in charge of dispatching power, hasn't spoken. The PURC, which is the regulator, says they don't have enough data as we speak, and that they are still gathering data. Do you think they are being honest and fair to us? I mean, is that how we govern?
Right.
Now, all these state institutions, all of them, the only person who is coming to speak is the ECG MD, who is not even engaged in generation of power.
Okay.
His is to just distribute the power. And he says that almost all their transformers are overloaded. Suddenly, you have all transformers overloaded in Ghana, and that they get overloaded in the night. And the ECG now does routine, regular maintenance in the night. When you do that, you are bringing yourself in the line of fire. So going forward, I think government should look for money and they'll buy fuel. That's all.
Okay.
Look, Moro, the only solution is fuel.
That's it. All right, John, thank you. Have a good day. Thank you very much.
All the things they are talking about.
It's not true. I
heard you. No. The thing is fuel. If they can get fuel today, the situation will be much better. Simple as that.
All right, Nana, just briefly, what do you also think is the way forward?
Yes, first, what I want to say is that Engineer Mahama is a sharp guy. We'll plead with him to desist from holding brief from Grico. Holding brief for Grico, because the system operator is Grico. They owe Ghanaians, answers. They owe the ECG answers as to how they are not able to meet our peak demand. They should tell us what the system is telling them.
Okay.
And that will make matters rest. When the ECG comes with, excuses like transformers and all that, in fact, we'll begin not to support them again.
Okay.
We need to address the financial constraints in the sector.
All right.
And all this thing will be something that will be behind us going forward.
Thank you very much. And I'm with you, the seventh executive director of the Institute for Energy Security. Moving up to what's the way forward from where you sit? John was still on, yeah.
And this is where sometimes, as our representatives, I think sometimes they play with us.
Right.
Because if it's in any other jurisdiction, I mean, believe me, all industry players, as he is alleging that they are not going to meet them, would have been called to come and explain.
True.
To them, because you are there representing us. So you should ask the questions that we want to ask. But let me tell you what. Look, then people talk about ECG for the longest time are not allowed to talk the truth and tell Ghanaians that we are only here. When we get the power, we will sell it to you. If somebody doesn't give it to us, if some transmission lines goes off, it is not ECG. Yeah, they have their own challenges within the ECG, okay, which is maybe some small transformer in your neighborhood blowing or some line coming down. But the major transmission, it is not ECG. It's as simple as that. And time has come. I've always advocated that ECG should be allowed to speak and speak freely. Seriously, because we need to know who is the weakest link.
I get it.
Somebody is now being the weakest link. And that person needs to be called out.
Do we deserve a timetable?
Like, let me explain the timetable. Because of the situation, I'm not saying that the timetable is not important, but it might not be as it used to be before. Because if it's a matter of money, if they get money today and they give you power, and tomorrow you are not supposed to go off, and because of money you go off, then what happens?
Okay.
So we need to know that, look, maybe we are going to do this for the next month.
Yeah, that's what.
But the question is that they don't know when they're going to get the money.
That's true. Because of the uncertainty.
Because of the uncertainty.
So it makes it difficult for you.
They
for
might
them
promise
to give a
you,
timetable.
I won't give you light, and then you do have light.
All right. Whoa, that's a very difficult one. Anyway, I want to say a big thanks for joining us today on Good Afternoon Ghana. My name is Al Dumsor. Big thanks to Josiah, hardworking producer, and also all my guests who joined me this afternoon. Sorry I didn't give you the WhatsApp line. I'll do that next week, Monday. So sorry about that. Assalamu alaikum. Have a great day. Bye-bye.